Hey there, and welcome back to Rival Reviews. So this week I thought we would try something a little bit different. Obviously the past couple episodes have been kind of more so about the anime that is currently, playing and is on and everything else like that. But we're kind of in this weird lull right now where, the episodes, the stories are finally kind of ramping up towards their conclusions and everything else like that. So I figured that I would just save my last thoughts for when all of them come to a close. And I thought that a nice theme for in between episodes would be to, just pick one specific, I guess, anime or show and, kind of go over it and everything else like that. And maybe what it means to me, give a little inspiration if anybody wants to, if they've ever thought about watching it, type of thing. So this one has been very special to me ever since I was younger, and this week we are going to be talking about Digimon. Digimon. Just hearing the name brings back a rush of nostalgia for so many of us. Whether you grew up watching the anime, playing the video games, or collecting the trading cards, Digimon has carved out a special place in our hearts. Today we'll explore the origins of Digimon, its impact on popular culture, and why it continues to captivate audiences around the world. So grab your Digivice and let's jump into the digital world. So first off, a little bit of a history lesson. So the Digimon franchise, short for Digital Monsters, or I guess Digimon, Digital Monsters, as they say in the show, first burst onto the scene in 1997 with the release of the Digimon Virtual Pet. If anybody who was a 90s kid and, didn't live under a rock, this was very reminiscent to the Tamagotchi. Main difference is that, the Tamagotchi was kind of more of like you feed it, you clean after it, you play with it, it's good. You did all those things with the Digimon Virtual Pet, but you were also able to connect them to somebody else's, and you would be able to incorporate battles and evolution and everything else, making this obviously a hit to the younger audiences that was used to Tamagotchis, but kind of made it popular for the teens as well. With the success of this, fast forward to 1999, and the world was introduced to the Digimon Adventure anime series. This show followed a group of children known as the DigiDestined, who were transported to the digital world. They were then partnered with Digimon to save their world and ours from various threats. Needless to say, the anime was a massive success, spawning multiple seasons, movies, has a crazy fan base all around the world. I'm trying to think back. So, because you have at least 6, I would say different, their own DigiDestined groups. Several movies. I know that, for instance, the first Digimon, the movie, every couple years I kind of rewatch it just for kicks. And it still slaps. I love it. Continuity errors aside. No, it's a really good movie. And I even rewatch the series ever so often as well. That being said, what I kind of wanted to go more into was kind of the importance, I guess, what makes Digimon so interesting and what kind of makes it a bit different than any, kind of other, I guess you can call them monster-centric franchises, I guess. First off is the storytelling, for me at least. That would probably be the best opinion that I could give. It's not just about, if you think to Pokemon or something like that, where, it's based on the collecting and the battling and, getting all the badges for the gyms and so on and so forth. But Digimon was very much more focused on the actual relationships between the Digidestined and their Digimon. As well as within the group themselves as well. It often tackled, you think back to all the crests and stuff like that, and if you think about it, for the grand majority of the Digidestined, especially in the original one, the crest that they were given to represent was more so, you would think at least, wouldn't really fit their personality. It was more a thing that they were weak to, but as they grew it stronger, like, best example that I can give to this is that Mats, or Yamato, if you want to get technical about the Japanese, he was the crest of friendship, and he was kind of more of a standoffish guy, wanted to do everything himself, wanted to be the big, tough big brother for TK, and everything like that. But the more that he became stronger friends with not only Gabumon, his Digimon partner, but also, other members of the DigiDestined, became better friends with Tai. His relationship with TK got better, across the board and everything else. He was able to, him and Gabumon were able to get stronger because he opened himself up to the power of friendship, which is funny because, you watch these animes, Fairy Tail being a really, really good example of this, where, like, it's the power of friendship that, and, guild camaraderie that, makes them stronger and stuff like that. But in my mind, the first example would be Digimon to this. And yeah, like I said, themes like friendship, sacrifice, and, the journey of them growing up themselves. If you want to think back to the movie Last Evolution, where it actually, they're all starting to grow up to become adults, and, their I guess responsibility to the Digimon, like the digital world, kind of weakens in a sense. Anyway, I don't want to spoil too much of that movie, but especially, like, if you haven't watched this series, make sure that you watch that last, because I find that it really hit a lot harder because it was like 20 years after I had watched the first episode of Digimon. And it really truly made me feel that I had grown up with this cast of characters. And I think that's what made it resonate the most. But what is also interesting about this is that if you look at the flip side, when they're constantly coming out with new seasons, new DigiDestined members, and actually they even just recently, I want to say it was 2 years ago, they actually revamped the old DigiDestined. Like, they used the same, Tai, Matt, all the original 8 and everything else, and kind of spun it in a different direction. All the underlying themes were still there, but it's almost as if they had new stakes and a new adventure with the same cast of people, and kind of modernizing it from when it was originally out in 1999, early 2000s for the majority of the story. Yeah, and kind of going back to talking about the importance that they kind of put on relationships and stuff like that. When you think about the Digivolution aspect of Digimon, this is kind of, I would say, more focused. Like, there is a couple episodes where it's focused on the main anime, but I would find that this concept is definitely more, I guess, personified in the video games more so than the anime itself. But with the strength of their relationships and stuff like that came with stronger evolutions. And then, like, if you think back to the original series, they had the crests, which was kind of like the key to unlocking the ultimate version of their evolutions. From going champion to ultimate, they needed to use the power of their crests, and to unlock said power, they needed to kind of do, you could almost say, like, almost a self-discovery of that kind of, I guess, value that strengthened them. So, you have courage, friendship, love, knowledge, sincerity, reliability, hope, and kindness. And all of those were, kind of explored in their own way and personified by these characters. And that was what helped them unlock. In the video games, it's a little bit different in the sense where the best way that I can explain it is based on their circumstances. Like, the best example that I can give of this is when the first technical ultimate evolution of Agumon in the original, because Tai tried to force it in a negative aspect and wanted it kind of more for revenge for his friends versus, using, the power of courage and everything else like that. It was more out of fear. Agumon turned into Skull Greymon instead of Metal Greymon. And, he was like out of control. He was angry. It almost seemed like he was in pain. So that was kind of the time where we learned of, just how much, I guess, the bond between, the DigiDestined and the Digimon himself mattered. This is kind of, like I said, better example of this is kind of in the video games where, there are different like branches and skill branches and stuff like that. And depending on, what I find interesting in the game. So for instance, like I would say the best example of this is Digimon Survive, which I'm just recently playing. You can choose to, harmonize, like kind of like be harmonious in your choices, or you can flip kind of more towards being, best way that I can describe it is like, like chaotic good and chaotic evil type of thing, instead of kind of staying somewhere in the middle. And that is dependent on which branch, your Digimon partner can digivolve into. And yeah, so I like the idea of this because, like, in itself, you can see it kind of like very reminiscent to everyday human life, right? Like your bonds with your friends and your family and everything else like that, they all matter and they shape you into the person that you can or will become, right? So I think that is why it struck a chord with me, and I'm sure it's not only me; it strikes a chord with everybody. Yeah, so, like, obviously, like, we have the games, like I said, I was just talking about Digimon Survive. There's the original Digimon World ones that were, like, for the, like, first PlayStation. The Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth, obviously was a big popular one. That was kind of more of, like, I guess the best way that I could describe it was kind of like, I guess Monster Hunter meets Digimon, I guess. Kind of be the best way that I can describe it. And then, of course, we have the trading game. Personally, for me, I never played the trading game. I had some cards, which is even more interesting, but I never actually played it or learned how to do so. I do know as of late, well, I say as of late, but I think in the past couple years, they had re-released, like, a new card game. And I know that it's super popular in Japan. Haven't really seen much popularity out west here, personally. And even online and everything else like that, I barely see it. And I think that's mainly just because here it's still very big. Like, obviously we have Magic the Gathering, and even Pokemon is even still pretty big here as well. Don't really hear much about Digimon, though. But the cards were fun to collect. They were, I find that they were very much the same as collecting as if I was collecting Pogs. I never really actually played with the Pogs, but I had a whole bunch of them. Yeah. So I guess just to answer questions that I'm sure will come up, first and foremost, obviously, if I had to pick a favorite, it would be the Gabumon branch of the Digimon. So like I said, Matt was always kind of my favorite character. I'm not sure if it's just because he spoke to me or anything else like that, but as I'm sitting here, wearing my Digimon necklace that I got from my wife, and it has the crest of friendship engraved in it and everything else as well. I have the pop of him and everything. Like, he's always been a favorite. I can't really explain it because in the grand scheme of things, he was kind of a dick. for the majority of the show until he, you know, smartened up. But yeah, he was always kind of my favorite. In terms of the idea of the reboot, I this could just be for the fact that I grew up with the original, but I definitely prefer the original. I don't know what it is. It just, it was the exact same cast of characters, the exact same everything else, and even kind of started the exact same as well. Like when they first got into the Digimon world and everything else like that, everything was very reminiscent to how it began. But then when it strayed off to being kind of its own thing, it just didn't hit as hard. And I'm not sure if it's just because of the way the anime has gone in its storytelling or anything else like that. But I think maybe it could also just be for the fact that the nostalgia of the original series is just so ingrained in me that I just refuse to accept any other rendition. That is very possible. Yeah. So that's really all I had to say about this. I would love to hear your, I guess, thoughts on, kind of these in between episodes instead of talking about, what's going on in the seasonal anime and everything else like that. If you like these fill-in ones, if you like me to focus on other shows, if I've watched it, I would be more than happy to do something like this. I started off with Digimon just because I felt like there was a lot of different nuances that I was able to kind of, I guess, grab onto to talk about. And like I said, it was really a big part of my childhood, and even now. I think I've said this in past episodes and everything else like that, but what I always found interesting the most about Digimon was I think, like I said, like kind of at the beginning of near towards the beginning of this episode, that it was a lot more focused on, the bonds and the important of values and everything else like that. And like I said before, like the 8 encompassing kind of crests that are in Digimon, in my mind, have always been, all really valuable and are all like if you hold those 8 values as a person, you can be a good person, I think, is the best way that I can describe why it means so much to me. And I think, like I said, I think it's definitely, left its mark on pop culture. And, I think that it's just going to continue growing because with these revamps or, and then the revamps, giving notice to the old and everything else like that, I think it's doing a great job, kind of like Pokemon in itself, grabbing a new generation of fans and, bringing them into this world, and, that'll make them more curious about, the 1999 anime, and, maybe they'll agree with me that, that, and maybe it's not just the nostalgia that's blinding me, who knows. Yeah, but I think that's the thing, is that whether you're a long-time DigiDestined or, just discovering the digital world now, there's always something new to explore. I would love to hear your thoughts. Like I said, please let me know. Obviously, Rival X Reviews on all social medias. If there is a show that you would like me to tackle in this kind of way of doing things, I'm more than happy to hear you out for sure. See if I can do it. And until next time, keep your digivices close and your hearts open. Stay digital, everyone.